Hi, friends. It's time for another episode of Create This Book. I did sort of struggle with deciding whether I should finish only this book and make separate series for Create This Book 2 and Create This Book 3, or if I should make videos doing one page from each. But then I was just paralyzed by indecision and completely ignored the two sequels. So let's just get started. So the first page I'm going to do says, create a music-inspired page. Turn on some music, let the music inspire your decorations. Obviously this page has a tiny amount of bleeding on one side, so I'm going to work on a separate piece of paper and glue it in when I'm done. Okay, so this is going to be a Taylor Swift inspired page. But if you're a Taylor hater, just stick with me. Don't give up on me just yet. I am a moderately big Swiftie. Like, I enjoy her music, I like her as a person, but I don't follow her closely enough to spot all the clues she drops everywhere or to understand about half the references in her lyrics. Don't get me wrong, I'll read articles and watch videos of people breaking them down, but I'm just not invested enough that I would figure it out on my own. What originally turned me into a Taylor fan was years and years ago when she was touring for her second album. She came to my city, and I had no idea who she was. But the granddaughter of a family friend really wanted to see her, and her grandparents did not want to go sit in an arena full of tween girls in mini skirts and cowboy boots. So I got elected to take her. I'd never heard of her, I didn't know a single song, but I was super impressed with how amazing she was with her fans. Like, even in a large arena, she really took time to try to interact individually with them. And now, I do genuinely like her music and listen to it most days, but the reason that I actually chose this for this page is because I kind of love the whole Eras thing and the aesthetics of it. If you don't know, but like, how could you not, she's doing this Eras tour for all of her albums, and she basically breaks each album down into an era. And each era has its own color palette and different theme, and I love themes. So I broke my page up into 10 different spots for the 10 albums. And for my Swifties, my favorite album is Reputation. My favorite song is currently Cruel Summer. I haven't seen her in concert since the Red album, and I am very pro Travis Kelce. I used chalk pastels for the backgrounds since they're pretty easy to blend, and then went in with colored pencils for each little symbol. I won't super Swiftie you with an explanation of each, but they aren't super hard to figure out. I tried to add a little vignette sort of feel to the edges of each one with darker color, and to add a little flair to the backgrounds. After the page was done, I sealed it in with a coat of matte Mod Podge so that the pencil and chalk won't transfer when the book is closed, and then I let that dry overnight, cut out the title area, and then glue it into the book. And I really like how this page turned out. Even though it took quite a long time, it actually didn't feel super daunting because it was 10 simple pictures instead of one super complicated one. And I really like the sort of laid-back, collage-y feel of it. Moving on to the next page, which says, create folds. Fold this page any way you want. But I don't want to fold this page, because I don't want to mess up the pages on either side of it. So I'm going to respectfully borrow an idea I saw someone else do and draw some folds in the form of origami animals. I'll see if I can find who I originally saw do this. There is a tiny little amount of ghosting on one of the pages, so again, I did this one on a separate sheet of paper. I did some quick sketching just to get the placement down, but origami is pretty precise, so I went back in with a ruler to make sure that these were very crisp. And I'm choosing 6 animals because, you guessed it, I want to make a rainbow. But I'm going to use watercolor for this, specifically this palette that I got in a sketch box. I'm just going to put some water down, dip some watercolor in it, and let it do what it will do. But not that, because I don't like that. I did struggle with the watercolor settling into little puddles where the paper was warping, but I had to use printer paper since watercolor paper would make the book way too thick and stiff. So I just kept moving the water around and pulling some of it up with my brush until it was soaked in enough that it wasn't puddling. I also flicked some of the paint at the paper to make little colored droplets everywhere. Once it was fully dry, I put it under some heavy books overnight to try and flatten it back out a little bit. Last, I took a fine liner and drew over my sketches. There were a few spots where they got a little obscured by the paint, but most of them I could still see. In case they aren't obvious, we have a crane, a butterfly, a fox, a crab, a sea turtle, and a little birdie. After gluing it into the book, here it is. I really, really like this page. It's really simple looking, even though it was not simple to draw, but it's still pretty interesting. And again, I like doing a bunch of small drawings versus one large one. The last page I'm going to do says, create embarrassment. Capture embarrassment on this page. Again, we're dealing with the tiniest amount of bleeding from another page, so this too is going to be on another sheet of paper. I'm drawing a set of stairs, which I will explain in a minute, but first, I'm trying to draw them in a sort of realistic perspective. And I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm looking at a diagram of a perspective drawing and just sort of winging it, but there's so many lines and so much geometry. I hate it. It looks good, but was it worth it? Honestly, the jury's still out. So, why am I drawing a shoe at the bottom of the stairs? When I was thinking about how to create embarrassment, I was thinking of when I was the most embarrassed. And I don't get embarrassed super easily, mostly because I'm really awkward and klutzy, and I've just gotten used to embarrassing things happening. Like the time in junior high that I walked all the way from one class to another with my short skirt tucked up into my backpack. Or the time that I fell down the stairs and a group of people clapped. But neither of those are my most embarrassing moment. So the first thing that you need to know about this is that it takes place in my freshman year of high school, which is like prime embarrassment territory. And my high school was pretty large, both in student body and in building size. And it was in the downtown area of a moderately large city, so most of the students were not people that I had known my entire life. My high school was 6 floors, so there were a lot of stairs. And the building was really, really old, so the stairs were wood and really creaky. The next thing that you need to know is that I had a monstrous crush on the most beautiful boy I had ever seen in my entire life. He was a senior, and he was in my band class, and he was a theater kid, and I was just absolutely speechless anytime I was around him. So, being the cringe teenage girl that I was, I would find any reason to have him look in my general direction. So, if I knew he was hanging out with his friends outside the auditorium, well, then I was sure going to find a reason to walk by. The auditorium happened to be at the bottom of a set of stairs. So, after school one day, I start down these stairs, wearing these stupid platform slides that were really popular back then, which, side note, they were all black, but I thought purple would be better for the picture. But anyway, of course, after one step, one of the shoes falls off and it proceeds to clunk and thunk its way down the entire flight of stairs like it was a slinky or something. Remember that I said the stairs were made of wood and this was a platform shoe? This was the loudest sound in the world. Also, the ceiling above the stairs was really low, so you couldn't actually see who was coming down the stairs until about halfway down, unless you were standing right at the bottom. So, the most beautiful boy in the world and his group of friends are standing around when this lone shoe comes thundering down the stairs. And obviously they go dead silent, waiting to see who's going to come down after it. And I seriously considered abandoning that shoe forever. But instead I limped my way down the stairs and picked up that stupid traitor and walked away. No one said anything, they just stared at me. But I am pretty sure I never wore those shoes again. And that's it, that's the story. I'd like to say he noticed me and we lived happily ever after, but that didn't happen. I continued to crush on him from afar, and he continued to pretend not to notice. So that's my embarrassment page. I think it fit the bill pretty well. But that's all I had time for this week. What do you think? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.